The slap heard round the galaxy struck the Malon Emperor with the force of a dying star. Silence rippled from the epicenter as Emperor Umbra staggered back, grasping at his split lip in stunned disbelief. Veteran human diplomat Mark Ward stood before the Malon ruler, hands still raised, fury radiating from his eyes. "We will never abandon our ways. Humanity bends the knee to no one," Ward declared as Malon guards swarmed him, wrenching his arms behind his back. In that instant, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The slap reverberated across the stars, the cataclysmic fallout yet unknown. Some praised Ward's unwavering defiance in the face of tyranny. Others, fearing swift Malon retaliation, braced for the onslaught to come. Umbra raged at the brazen disrespect shown by a mere human. He demanded Ward be dragged before a Malon tribunal to answer for this grave insult. The Earth government, desperate to avoid a costly war, reluctantly agreed to hand Ward over, deaf to the outraged protests of colonies and citizens. As Ward was marched onto the Malon ship in irons, he caught one final glimpse of human protesters holding signs calling for his release. A faint smile ghosted across his lips. Ward had no regrets. He did what needed to be done, looked a tyrant in the eye, and showed him humanity would never break. The Malon ship lifted off, disappearing into the black, carrying a single human whose actions had altered the course of history. War loomed on the horizon as a shocked galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what price humanity would pay for refusing to yield. The future was uncertain, but one truth rang clear through the stars. Never underestimate the indomitable human spirit. Mankind would fight to the bitter end. The Malon ship streaked through the void, carrying its human cargo to an unknown fate. Inside a Spartan holding cell, Mark Ward sat shackled to the wall, his split lip crusted with dried blood. The acrid stench of recycled air filled his nostrils as he took stock of his grim surroundings. After an indeterminable time, the ship shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace. Ward craned his neck to peer through the tiny viewport, catching a glimpse of a desolate world below. Karun 7, the notorious Malon prison colony. The ship descended through the planet's turbulent atmosphere, landing with a jarring thud. Guards dragged Ward from his cell, marching him down the ramp into the harsh glare of twin suns. Squinting against the light, he took in the forbidding sight of towering watchtowers and electrified fences stretching to the horizon. At the processing center, a hulking Malon with cruel eyes scrutinized Ward. "I am Warden Drux," he growled, "and you, human, are nothing. Just another insect to be ground beneath the boot of Malon justice." Drux's guards tore away Ward's tattered diplomatic uniform, tossing him a faded prison jumpsuit. Stripped of his dignity, Ward was shoved into a line of similarly downtrodden prisoners, shuffling toward the cell blocks. As he stumbled into the cramped confines of his new home, a wave of despair threatened to engulf Ward. The dank walls closed in, the weight of his isolation bearing down like a physical force. But in that darkest moment, a flicker of defiance sparked to life within him. He thought of the protesters back on Earth, their message of solidarity etched in his memory. Ward straightened his spine, squaring his shoulders. The Malon had no idea who they were dealing with. Humanity's fighting spirit ran through his veins, unbreakable and unyielding. This was not the end, but the beginning. In the weeks that followed, Ward toiled in the prison mines, his hands blistering as he hauled ore under the watchful eyes of Malon guards. The work was backbreaking, the conditions borderline inhuman. But through the hardship, Ward found solace in the camaraderie of his fellow prisoners. There was Zara, a proud Vashi warrior with fire in her eyes, imprisoned for defending her clan against Malon aggression. And Reich, a brilliant Terran hacker caught sabotaging Malon systems, his wit sharp as a blade. Galen, an elderly Eltarian scholar, shared stories of Malon atrocities, his soft voice brimming with quiet defiance. As trust grew between Ward and this ragtag band of dissidents, whispers of rebellion began to stir in the depths of Karun 7. Under the cover of darkness, they traded tales of the Fallen, the legendary human rebel who had once struck a devastating blow against the Malon. Ward's influence did not go unnoticed by Drux. The warden subjected him to increasingly cruel punishments, beating Shah's body in an attempt to break his spirit. But with each blow, Ward's tenacity only hardened. He would not be broken. And so, when the ion storm raged across Karun 7, disabling the prison's security systems, Ward knew the time had come. Rake's nimble fingers danced across the cell block control panel, the doors sliding open with a hiss. Zara charged forward, rallying the prisoners to rise up against their captors. In the heart of the chaos, Ward confronted Drux, the two titans locked in a brutal struggle. Fists flew and blood spattered the walls. But it was Ward who emerged victorious, a triumphant roar escaping his throat. With alarms blaring and reinforcements closing in, the rebellious prisoners seized control of the colony's ships. Ward stood at the helm as they blasted free of Karun 7's atmosphere, Malon fighters hot on their tail. As the stars stretched into the infinite expanse of space, Ward felt a grim sense of purpose settle over him. The fight was not nearly finished, the scars of Malon oppression still raw across the galaxy. But with this ragtag band of renegades at his side, he knew anything was possible. In the heart of the Outer Rim, a new resistance would rise from the ashes of Karun 7. The fallen would return, a spark of hope rekindled in the endless night, and the Malon Empire would learn the true meaning of human defiance. The stolen Malon ship emerged from hyperspace above Mavros, a dusty orb hanging in the void. Ward gripped the control yoke, guiding the vessel through the planet's turbulent atmosphere. Smoke belched from ramshackle factories, dotting the landscape below, a patchwork of lawlessness and desperation. "Home sweet home," Rick muttered, his fingers dancing across the nav console. They touched down on the outskirts of Blackwater, Mavros's largest settlement, if you could call the sprawling maze of cargo containers and corrugated metal shacks a settlement. Ward led his ragtag band down the ship's ramp, the acrid air stinging their lungs. In the days that followed, Ward's voice rang out in crowded cantinas and dimly lit back alleys. He spoke of justice, of freedom from Malon oppression. The downtrodden masses of Mavros listened, hope kindling in their eyes. "The Empire sees us as less than nothing," Ward declared, standing atop an overturned crate in Blackwater's bustling marketplace. "But together, we can show them the true strength of the so-called dregs of the galaxy." Cheers erupted from the crowd. Among them, a woman with sharp eyes and a shock of red hair watched Ward intently. As the crowd dispersed, she approached. "Impressive speech," she said, her voice carrying a hint of amusement. "But words alone won't topple an empire." Ward sized her up. "And who might you be?" "Arya Voss," she replied, a crooked grin spreading across her face. "Smuggler, scoundrel, and apparently your new best friend." In a quiet corner of a nearby cantina, Arya revealed her lineage, daughter of the legendary rebel known as the Fallen. She offered her network of contacts, hidden bases scattered across the Outer Rim. The Starlight Rebellion, as Ward's group now called themselves, had found a powerful ally. Weeks blurred into months as the rebellion grew. Rake's hacking skills proved invaluable, infiltrating Malon networks and uncovering the Empire's darkest secrets. They struck Malon's supply lines and mining operations, freeing enslaved workers and gathering much-needed resources. Their boldest move came on Eldris, a corporate-controlled world choked by factory smoke and worker oppression. Ward led a small team into the heart of the Eldris Consortium's main production facility. They moved swiftly through the cavernous space, dodging automated assembly lines and hulking industrial robots. Zara disabled the security systems, while Galen used his scholarly knowledge to access restricted terminals. Ward made his way to the factory floor, where thousands of workers toiled in hellish conditions. He climbed atop a massive ore processor, his voice booming through the facility's PA system. "Workers of Eldris, the time has come to throw off your chains." What followed was chaos, but organized chaos. The workers, emboldened by Ward's words and the Starlight Rebellion's support, rose up against their corporate overlords. By nightfall, the Eldris Consortium's grip on the planet had been shattered. News of the uprising spread like wildfire across the galaxy. But with each victory, the Malon Empire's fury grew. Reports came in of a massive fleet gathering near Mavros. The rebellion's safe haven was about to become a war zone. In a dingy war room cobbled together from salvaged ship parts, Ward and Arya pored over star charts and tactical readouts. "We can't hope to match their firepower," Arya said, frustration evident in her voice. Ward's eyes locked onto a nearby system. "Maybe we don't have to. Look, the Tarsus shipyards. If we could get our hands on one of those Malin dreadnoughts..." Arya's eyes widened. "You can't be serious." "Deadly serious," Ward replied. "It's our only shot." The plan came together quickly. Zara would lead a small team to infiltrate the shipyard security hub. Meanwhile, Ward, Arya, and Galen would make for the prize, the Invictus, pride of the Malin fleet. Klaxons blared as Zara's team engaged the Malin guards. Ward and his group used the distraction to slip aboard the Invictus. They fought their way through narrow corridors, Malin soldiers falling before their desperate assault. On the bridge, they found themselves face to face with Admiral Varric, a bear of a Malon with cold, calculating eyes. "You've made a grave mistake, human," Varric growled. Galen stepped forward, his weathered face etched with sorrow. "Admiral, please! This madness must end. How many more must die for Umbra's ambition?" Varric's expression hardened. "Save your breath, old man. I will not betray my emperor." "Then perhaps," Arya said, stepping into view, "you'll honor the traditions of your people." She drew a ceremonial blade from her belt. "I challenge you, Admiral Varric, to single combat for control of this vessel. Do you accept?" Shock registered on Varric's face, quickly replaced by dogged persistence. "So be it." The bridge became an arena as crew members scrambled to clear space. Arya and Varric circled each other, blades glinting in the harsh light of the command consoles. They clashed in a furious exchange of strikes, neither willing to give ground. Varric's strength was fearsome, but Arya moved with a fluid grace born of years evading Malin patrols. She ducked under a wild swing, her blade finding a gap in Varric's armor. The Admiral stumbled, crimson staining his uniform. With a final decisive thrust, Arya ended the duel. Varric collapsed, his last breath escaping in a ragged gasp. Silence fell over the bridge. Then a young Malon officer stepped forward, saluting Arya. "The ship is yours, Captain." As the Invictus disengaged from the shipyard, alarms screamed across Malon frequencies. Ward allowed himself a moment of triumph, gazing out at the star-filled viewport. The rebellion now had teeth. A console chimed, drawing Ward's attention. An encoded transmission, origin unknown. As the message decrypted, Ward's blood ran cold. "Arya," he called out, his voice tight, "you need to see this." This. Ward's eyes widened as he scanned the decrypted message. A layout of a heavily fortified Malin research facility on Zirion flashed across the screen, along with security codes and patrol schedules. "It's from someone inside Malin High Command," Arya breathed, leaning over his shoulder. "But who?" Ward's heart made. "Doesn't matter. What matters is what they've uncovered." He pointed to a blinking red icon on the facility schematic. "Project Oblivion. Whatever it is, it's big enough for a Malin insider to risk everything." Within hours, the Starlight Rebellion mobilized. The Invictus dropped out of hyperspace in Zirion's orbit, cloaked by Rick's ingenious stealth modifications. Ward led an elite strike team to the planet's surface in a stolen Malin shuttle, Arya at his side. They touched down in a forested ravine, the research facility's imposing silhouette looming against the night sky. Rick's voice crackled through their comms. "Security systems accessed. You've got a 10-minute window before the next patrol." Ward nodded to Arya. "Let's move." They slipped through the facility's outer perimeter, Rick's hacked codes granting them access to restricted areas. The corridors were eerily quiet, the air thick with antiseptic tang. As they rounded a corner, Ward froze. A group of robed figures huddled around a glowing containment unit, chanting in a guttural language. Their skin was sickly pale, eyes gleaming with fanatical zeal. "Kolrath cultists," Arya whispered, her hand tightening on her blaster. "What are they doing here?" Before Ward could respond, alarms blared. They'd been detected. Chaos erupted. Ward and Arya fought their way through waves of cultists and Malon guards, the rest of the strike team providing covering fire. They battled deeper into the facility, desperation fueling every shot. In a cavernous laboratory, they found their answer. Holographic displays showed a horrifying molecular structure, a virus engineered to target specific genetic markers. "By the stars," Arya gasped. "It's a bioweapon." Ward's blood ran cold as he accessed the project files. Codenamed Oblivion, and humanity's at the top of the target list. A cultist's energy blade sliced through the air, missing Ward's throat by inches. He grappled with the robed figure, slamming him into a control panel. Sparks flew as equipment short-circuited. "We need to destroy this place," Ward shouted over the din of battle. "Plant the charges." As his team set explosives, Ward secured a canister of the virus, evidence they couldn't leave behind. Malon reinforcements poured in, cutting off their escape route. Ward and his rebels found themselves pinned down, outnumbered, and outgunned. The facility rocked with a thunderous explosion. Through the shattered viewports, Ward saw the Invictus descending, its weapons unleashing hell on the Malon forces. Zara's voice crackled over the comms. "Need a lift?" They fought their way to the landing pad, Malon fire scorching the air around them. The Invictus hovered, its boarding ramp extended. Ward's team piled in, Arya providing covering fire. As the last rebel made it aboard, Ward slammed the ramp controls. The Invictus rocketed skyward, the research facility erupting in a massive fireball behind them. In the ship's war room, Ward stared at the canister of Oblivion, its contents innocuous yet terrifying. "The galaxy needs to know," he said, his voice grim. "About Oblivion, about Umbra's alliance with the Kolrath. All of it." Arya nodded, grit etched on her face. "Then let's give them a show they'll never forget." As the Invictus streaked into hyperspace, Ward prepared to address the galaxy. The revelation of Umbra's genocidal plans would change everything. The real war was about to begin. The real war was about to unfold in ways none of them could have imagined. Alarms blared throughout the Invictus as Ward strode onto the bridge. Arya's hands flew across the tactical display, her face grim. "Multiple hyperspace signatures," she reported. "It's Umbra's armada." Through the view screen, reality itself seemed to tear as Malon warships poured from a temporal vortex, their sleek hulls gleaming against the backdrop of Corridon Phi. The rebel stronghold hung vulnerable in the void, its meager defenses dwarfed by the Imperial onslaught. Ward's eyes hardened. "All hands to battle stations. Reich, initiate countermeasures." The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as crew members rushed to their posts. Reich's fingers danced across his console, lines of code streaming across the screen. "Initiating cyber warfare protocols," the hacker muttered, his eyes never leaving his work. Ward turned to Arya. "You know what we have to do." She nodded, a fierce glint in her eye. "Time to crash this party." The Invictus surged forward, engines screaming as Arya pushed the stolen dreadnought to its limits. They bore down on the massive flagship at the heart of the Malon formation, the Dominus. "Weapons locked on the Dominus," Zara called out from her station. "Ready to fire on your command." "Hold," Ward ordered. "We need to get closer." The space between ships shrank rapidly. Malon turbolasers lashed out, pummeling the Invictus's shields. The bridge shuddered under the assault. "Shields at 60%, an officer shouted. "Now Zara," Ward commanded. The Invictus unleashed its full arsenal. Beam weapons sliced through space. Missiles streaked towards their target. The Dominus shields flared under the barrage, forced to divert all power to defense. "Their systems are vulnerable," Reek announced, his voice taut with concentration. "Executing cyber attack now." For a heartbeat, nothing seemed to happen. Then chaos erupted across the Malon fleet. Ships veered wildly off course, their weapon systems going dark. Comm chatter filled with panic and confusion. "Direct hit on their command and control network," Reck reported, allowing himself a tight smile. Ward didn't hesitate. All rebel ships, this is your window. Engage! The ragtag rebel fleet surged forward, seizing the initiative. Zara's voice crackled over the comms, raw and fierce. Vashi warriors, with me. Show these Malin dogs the meaning of true combat. Through the view screen, Ward watched as Zara's fighters tore into the enemy formation. The Vashi moved with a primal grace, their smaller craft dancing between the lumbering Malon cruisers. A massive explosion rocked the Invictus. Arya's hands flew over the controls, fighting to keep the ship steady. We've lost starboard engines, she growled. The Dominus is breaking free of our jamming. Ward's mind raced. They'd bloodied the Malon fleet, but Umbra's flagship was still in the fight. If they couldn't take it out. A new alarm blared. Rick's eyes widened. We've got a problem. Umbra's abandoning ship. His escape pod is headed for the planet's surface. Ward's blood ran cold. If Umbra reached Corridon 5, all their sacrifices would be for nothing. He turned to Arya, their eyes meeting in silent understanding. Go, she said, her voice hard. End this. Ward nodded, already moving towards the exit. Reek, Zara, with me. We're going hunting. As they raced towards the hangar bay, the ship rocked with another impact. Ward stumbled, steadying himself against a bulkhead. Through a nearby viewport, he caught a glimpse of the battle raging outside. The rebel fleet was holding its own, but for how long? They piled into a sleek assault shuttle, Rick taking the controls. As they dropped from the Invictus's hangar, Ward saw the dreadnought on a collision course with the crippled Dominus. His chest tightened, knowing Arya was still aboard. The shuttle screamed through Corridon Vi's atmosphere, trailing fire. Ahead, a streak of light marked Umbra's descent. They were gaining, but would it be enough? The Emperor's pod slammed into the planet's surface, kicking up a massive dust cloud. Reich brought their shuttle down hard nearby, the landing struts groaning under the impact. Ward was first out the hatch, blaster drawn. Through the settling debris, he caught sight of movement, Umbra surrounded by a squad of elite guards. Their eyes met across the scorched earth, decades of hatred distilled into a single moment. Rick, Zara, Ward called out, his voice steady. Take out the guards. Umbra's mine. The air filled with weapons fire as Ward charged forward. Umbra's personal shield flickered under the barrage, but held. The tyrant's lips curled into a sneer as he raised his own weapon. Come then, Ward, Umbra's voice boomed across the battlefield. Let us finish what began on Karun 7. Ward ducked and rolled, plasma bolts searing the air where he'd been standing. He returned fire, forcing Umbra back. All around them, the clash of steel rang out as Zara engaged the elite guard in close combat. Scrambling for cover behind a chunk of twisted metal, Ward caught his breath. He could hear Umbra's footsteps drawing closer, the crunch of boots on scorched earth. This was it, the moment he'd fought for, bled for, sacrificed everything for. With a wordless cry, Ward burst from cover, hurling himself at his nemesis. They collided in a tangle of limbs and fury, tumbling across the battlefield. Ward's fist connected with Umbra's jaw, the Emperor's head snapping back. But Umbra was far from done. A knee drove into Ward's stomach, driving the air from his lungs. Umbra seized the advantage, pinning Ward to the ground. The Emperor's eyes blazed with madness as his hands closed around Ward's throat. You could never understand, Umbra hissed. The Malon Empire is eternal. Kill me, and you doom the entire galaxy. Ward's vision began to darken, his lungs screaming for air. He fumbled at his belt, fingers closing around the grip of his sidearm. With the last of his strength, he brought the weapon up. Their eyes locked one final time. In that moment, Ward saw the fear hiding behind Umbra's bravado. The tyrant knew his reign was ending. Ward pulled the trigger. The shot echoed across the battlefield. Umbra's grip loosened, shock replacing the rage in his eyes. He toppled sideways, a smoking hole in his chest. Gasping for air, Ward struggled to his feet. Around him, the sounds of battle faded as the last of the elite guard fell. Zara approached, her blade stained with Malon blood. It's over, she said softly. But Ward's eyes were fixed on Umbra's corpse. A red light blinked on the Emperor's wrist, pulsing with ominous intent. "No," Ward whispered, realization dawning. "It's only just begun." High above, beyond the atmosphere of Corridon 5, a signal raced outward. The Oblivion virus had been unleashed.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.